Welcome, everyone. It is June 24th, 2026 at time of recording. As always, I'm joined by our friend, Brian. Brian, how we doing?
Good. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to type your intro there, popping the top like Stone Cold Steve Austin, but doing okay. Looking forward to chatting with my good friend David about all of our adventures in between recordings. So let's get into it.
Yeah. And popping the top on a Sprite Zero, folks. This episode brought to you by Poisonous Fake Sugar Drinks.
Yeah, this brought to you by Aspartame.
Yeah. Um, But yeah, I mean, a lot of stuff going on. It's been a little while since we hopped on and we talked about the goings on. Um, I got a couple weddings here coming up, so trying to plan around those. $200 shelled out to run a tuxedo the other day, so not very fun. And then I'm in the other wedding, so I have to go and I think we're buying our suits. Pretty sure we're buying our suits, which sounds like they're not going to be too expensive, but then I have to get fitted, which is another cost on top of it. But at the end, I'll have a suit that I'll probably never wear. I have two of them right now, and they're good for weddings and funerals. Not really much use in using them outside of those two things. I was
Right.
thinking, with how casual the office have gotten, maybe instead of casual Friday, maybe it's a monthly like dress up day or something.
Yeah, yeah, there.
It'll be
Yeah,
one of
just
those things. I sent out a memo and no one else does it, so I'm like the only one in a Halloween costume. But instead, I'm just wearing a suit. Everyone's like, "What? Look at this fucking guy. Who do you think? Who does he think he is?"
yeah, fucking go getter over here. You should. It's really just a power move at that point, you know. They're like, David, why are you wearing a suit? You go, I don't know, felt like it. And they're like, man, I can respect that. I like that. This guy knows how to party. But
I
yeah,
doubt that'll be the response I get, but yeah, I mean, in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, everyone's gonna be turning heads.
yeah, maybe for the right reasons. Maybe who knows? You know, maybe you dress into impress, and your boss gives you promotion on the spot. You know, I don't know. I have a lot of wishful thinking, so it's probably not best to take my advice.
Yeah, I mean, sorry. Hopefully, something good to come out of it. But sometimes too, I mean, I did Movember and grew the mustache out, and um, you know, the last few months I had a beard going, and then my barber, I wanted him to trim it up a little bit, and he, yeah, kind of cut off too much on the side, so it kind of looked like a goat with a long beard in the middle and kind of nothing on the side. So I had to shave it down, but yeah, sometimes it's nice to just kind of change your look up a little bit. A pair of shoes I hadn't worn at work before, and I wore them the other day, and yeah, it felt kind of nice. Small little things to change things up a little bit, but yeah, for guys guys with beards, different beard styles or mustaches or whatever, it's kind of like for women changing their hairstyles. I don't know if it's that. I don't know if it's exactly one to one, but in my mind, it's always like, yeah, this is kind of like my version of changing my hairstyle.
Yeah, right. Just comb it a different way, or moose or whatever. Just just throw just throw a curveball. Just be like, I'm going to be different today, but also I don't know alignment that would fall in for D&D. Maybe chaotic neutral, but yeah, do it. Just do something to fuck with somebody. I'm always down for that. Like I don't really just wear like graphic tees or like for instance right now I'm wearing a SpongeBob t-shirt for Chum Bucket, and that's Chum, not the other one. So you didn't mishear me, you perverts. But nor I think yesterday I wore a polo, and I think everyone thought I was like going through a midlife crisis or something like that. Like that's how casual our office is. And they like kind of like stared at me. I'm like, it's not even a nice polo. It's like one that I've had for like 10 years. It's kind of raggedy looking too, but because I'm down over 30 pounds now. I think people are finally starting to notice, the physical changes. And uh, sorry, I didn't really mean to transition from trying to be funny to being serious, but it's like people are getting second and third looks from people. Like there's something different about this guy. Maybe that's really all it was, and wasn't the polo, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just a guy who likes attention for all the wrong reasons. Who knows? That's for me to work out in therapy, which I got an appointment this Friday. So gonna dig into that a little deeper now that I've kind of thought about it.
Yeah, I mean, we always kind of come across some of these things we weren't thinking about, and try to think about it in a different way. Like, oh, okay, yeah, no, this is not swag.
Yeah. This is not
uh,
hip.
right. Yeah, which I mean, I've been dealing with kind of the same thoughts, the same feelings. One of the things I've been working on this week of getting up early just to go running. Uh, I know, like, kind of like how much effort and how much time things take me, and that was kind of my focus over the last few weeks of you know trying not to talk myself out of things if I think I don't have time or if I don't have the energy. So really just trying to capture some of that data to understand, like, okay, this doesn't take me that much time, or I actually really enjoy doing this. Um, and yeah, just trying to like kind of keep that mindset and staying within my, well, going a little bit outside of my energy envelope, but then really understanding, what is conceivable for me to do right now. And then once I know that, then I know kind of how far to push, because I don't want to push too far. And I want to, kind of maintain my semblance of patience where I'm at right now. And, getting back to journaling and, just trying to be present and, how am I feeling? Um, what do I think about this, or what have you? So yeah, I think it, in any direction that you go, uh, I think just some of that discovery work and things that you haven't thought about before is like, oh, okay, yeah, this isn't very cash money of me. And yeah, it just kind of leads you to uh, new thoughts, and those thoughts can lead you to new solutions if you let them, and further experimentation, which is kind of scary, but also, very exciting time in life if you allow it to, if you allow yourself to feel that way of like, hey, I found this out. Cool. Like, what do we do about it? And then
Right.
go and test some stuff out.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's kind of sometimes what life is all about. We're not all born with these, with all of the answers. So sometimes it just takes a little bit of trial and error. Kind of what I've been doing this week at work. Now that my main site that I work on is kind of in the hands of other developers, and I don't have much to do day to day because we're not even really into the redesign phase, so we're still very much in the early part of this process. And I've kind of just lost a lot of things to work on, so I've been working on our um, direct to consumer site, and kind of putting the reins back, or getting back on the horse, so to speak, of coding and problem solving. And I've kind of had to dig around a lot to figure out which components do what in the code, and a lot of back tracing. Because I know I've talked about it before. We relaunched the site on Shopify a few months ago, and I'm starting to learn that most developer agencies suck, and they overpromise and underdeliver a lot of the times, and sometimes they just run over on the budget, and so some things are kind of just have to be half-assed. So I'm working on a lot of different UI, or user interface changes, and trying to figure out, put myself in the brain of other developers. And it's been a challenge. A lot of the coding that I've done kind of just HTML and CSS, which is kind of just basic level, uh, scripts or basic level kind of, best way to put it is like code that you would write on MySpace back in the day. Nothing really too crazy, but now I'm kind of getting into like the Shopify language and JavaScript again. So kind of having to retrain my brain a bit to, scope out the pattern and all that. So, but the good news is I made a lot of progress. I don't have any solutions, but I've made a lot of progress on how these things work and getting down that funnel. So definitely, um, been a lot of trial and error on my end. So, I'm stressing out a bit, just because feel like I should maybe be faster than what I'm doing now, but practicing my self forgiveness of you haven't done this in a while, so let's figure this out. And the joke is using AI is makes you a 10x developer, or 10x developer, 10x your skills, right? Um, I would say it's definitely a good consultant to have, especially how I'm really the only one who knows how code works above anything other than like a div. um, it's been wrong maybe 50% of the time, but it's probably also my prompting. But um, we're both trying to work out our communication skills, right? So I think we're getting there. We're both getting there. I'm getting there on two fronts. So progress is I guess my theme for this episode.
Yeah. And I think, an idea that I have, and well, not really an idea, but what I've been telling myself, and a lot of these things is like, I have no business trying to run 5 miles. Like, let's start small.
Yeah.
Um, in even in work, like using AI or um, some of these processes and things that I might not know very much on. I'm like, well, I have no business in trying to, use AI to um, try to create something. Um, so yeah, I mean, that's kind of where my head's been at. Like, I have no business in doing this. I need to start small. Or, a coworker of mine is leaving for a different job, and congrats to her. She's um, seems to have been looking for a while and trying to find something different. She finally did. But I'll be taking over some of her responsibilities, and some of the things that she does like take quite a bit of time. And even in my mind, like, yeah, I mean, there could be I could automate some of this, but I'm gonna wait a while until I understand like how to be able to check and make sure that it doesn't look right. So as I'm going through the steps to try to automate some of the generation, then um, I know what to look for. But it's really that tuition that you have to pay to know like what looks right, what doesn't look right. And yeah, um, really just kind of where my mind has been at, and has helped me, kind of start small and be patient, and just, that voice in my head that's always thinking like, hey, we got to be patient because we don't know much about this. We're not at a point uh, health wise to try to take on too much at once. And yeah, just kind of focusing on trying to figure out what works and learning as I go.
Yeah, for sure. That's a skill I think we can all um build is is just being patient with ourselves, right? So I think if we're patient with ourselves, we can be patient for others. I find this last week has been like family time has been stressful just because like I haven't felt well. Then my son went from like coughing, kind of have a fever, possible, sinuses or some sort of infection. And then, he's all of a sudden like having gastrointestinal stomach issues. Like he literally was like vomited, and his I don't know if he was asleep or if he was awake, but he puked all over himself in bed, and then the next day it was diarrhea. So he's battling something. And my wife is also, she had like a fever, um coughing, shakes, negative for flu. They didn't, and she went to the doctor and they gave him like a whole just litany of drugs, cough medicine, steroid. So um all of this to kind of say like I've if we were patient with ourselves, that means can be patient for others. That also leads to sort of empathy, right? So I know obviously what they're going through. I mean, it doesn't take rocket science to see that somebody does not feel good. We should probably be kind to them. But we've had goals this week for, like, my son was supposed to go to a summer camp, and obviously that's not going to happen with the way he's feeling. We had to put him back into a pull up. That's just because, like, just of the randomness of his stomach issues. So we didn't want to put that burden, but we just ended up pulling him out. And we've been just kind of having to figure out a lot of things on the fly with this week as far as schedule. And it's literally the first week of summer. So um we've had to be patient and trying to figure out how can I be supportive to them but also accomplish what I want to get done. And you know obviously tending to their needs as well as mine, right? Like, we were just the household is not feeling well, but now we're on the up and up. So you know and to kind of measure my progress, I know when we've had weeks like this, it's like we're both not feeling well, and it's a lot of finger pointing, a lot of arguments. So you know as silly as it sounds, we've made a lot of progress on that front of, I guess, being there for each other and just kind of not, blaming each other for just stupid things that really don't even matter. So, and it's, obviously it's going to be exacerbated because we're all not feeling well. So it's just trying to navigate through that, and a lot of, you know, new territory, I guess, so to speak, even though it's really just kind of rehashing over things, but just attacking it from a different angle.
Yeah. No, it's that sucks. I have to be going through that. Um, Trying to find a way that works. Yeah, but yeah, trying to remain positive and try to find a solution. Um, Sometimes is best that you can do. Right. Like,
Yeah.
um, yeah. So it's good to still like remaining positive about it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the hardest thing. It's like, they were both pulling a fever of like, somewhere between 99 and 101, which isn't that bad necessarily, in the grand scheme of things, but still adding on a factor, it's like, um, be trying to navigate, going to this camp, work. I've coming off of a pretty busy weekend, just spending a lot of time on family. That's already exhausting as it is. So, um, just trying to find, not being overwhelmed, but also not feeling well is certainly a challenge. So, yeah, it's not been fun, but you can kind of see sunny skies, so to speak. Now, I mean, we're only halfway through this week, but we're getting through it, and we got some plans coming up that we're still trying to navigate if we can even make. And yeah, it's just adding on top of an already busy week, and it's like everyone's not feeling good. It's not where we want to be, but we make the best of the situation that we have.
Yeah, definitely. You got travel plans coming up?
Yeah, we're gonna go. I mean, I guess it's not this weekend. I always get it confused. It's coming up for the 4th, so gonna go up north, as we say in Michigan, to the thumb, just for a couple of days. Um, but again, we're still trying to figure out if we can make that work. Plus, like the for restaurants, because my wife is a restaurant owner, it's a very slow season coming up because a lot of families go on vacation in July just before kids go off to college, kids go back to school. You know, uh, when I was in school, we didn't even start our first semester until after New Year's. Now I'm sorry, not New Year's, Labor Day. So now I think they start the week of, and it's just, and my son's going into kindergarten. So it's a lot of things that are going to kind of come up quickly, and we want to. Money's been kind of an issue lately, so we're just trying to find time to get away without, having to spend a lot. My in-laws were kind enough to pay for some summer camps just for my son to be able to get away and or socialize, and obviously the burden of our childcare is not on us all summer. But with him not feeling well, again, just pivoting. A lot of pivoting this summer is what we're going to be doing. So we have to be okay with plans not working out the first time. Obviously, we try to do the best to make those happen, but you know, life's exhausting as it is, and why I put the added pressure of trying to please other people or things. Um, you know, when we don't really have to, like, it's not a big deal. So
Yeah. I think too, just like, um, I drove up north and looked at that house, but just kind of being in a different place, in a new place, even for the day, go to a restaurant, go to a park or something. Like, it doesn't have to be too far away.
right.
And Taylor by me, I passed by a petting zoo. I'm like, oh, that'd be pretty sweet. Or in Ypsilanti, they have like a small water park, and it has a disc golf course as well. So, like, yeah, that'd be kind of cool. It's not too far away from the house. So, yeah, you don't have to go too far. You don't have to spend a bunch of money, talking to the listeners and whatnot to, kind of have like a new experience and try some different things. So,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah.
definitely, kind of like a sensible type vacation or a trip or just something to do. It doesn't have to be going to Vegas or going to a different state or something. I mean, just like trying to realize from my own realization, like there is definitely a lot more out there, like a lot closer than you would think.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, Detroit Riverwalk is always a good time for you know always a lot of. They have the what do you call that? The they have like a splash pad right there, and there's a park, and all sorts of like DIA. I don't think that's too expensive, although it's been a couple of years since I've been there. But yeah, there's a lot of different activities, especially for families, and that's really no uh, low cost. It's kind of have to find those and make the best of it, make a good time, make sure it's gonna be hard to obviously make sure that everyone's happy and pleased, but you kind of just got to find that middle ground sometimes when other people involved, and I'm learning that even at almost 37 going on 38. um that sometimes my feelings aren't always I shouldn't say it like that. That there are other people, and we have to kind of be mindful of that. Like, just because I don't want to go somewhere doesn't mean that plan doesn't have to fall through, right? So, as much as I'm a fan of alone time and just time to evolve, I'm just kind of being more comfortable with myself, I guess, and kind of going get us, but also on the other side, getting out of my comfort zone of just wanting to be a homebody. And my son's 5, right? He's got to experience things and got to build core memories.
Yeah.
So, but those core memories don't have to break the bank. So it's a fine balance. It's a weird, weird feeling for me. I guess it's all new, but it's kind of it's gonna be our trial and error of what everyone likes, and build it until it's a comfort zone. Then we move on because we're staying in our comfort zone. We're not changing, and while we don't always have to make it a constant change, it should always be an effort towards to kind of better ourselves in some way. My focus has been just being a better developer at work, but also just a better dad. I've come a long way since I was in boot camp, and effectively, I still feel guilty about that. Even though I've also forgiven myself a long time ago of just having to spend you know every day of 6 months of trying to pass that boot camp. And there's a time when he was going on 3, right? 20. Oh no, he's 1 to 2. So I mean, it was a pretty important time of development, and we're still getting in the process of getting tested for autism and all that. And it's like, but I can't help but feel somehow responsible for that, even though there's no way of even knowing that for sure. But just sometimes you put that on your back. And but you also gotta talk myself of like, I make more money. We're in a better financial situation had I not done any of that. And um, even though I understand I said money was tight a little while ago, but it would have been way tighter had I not. So silver lining and everything, right? Like, always a lesson to be learned, and that's part of our growth cycle.
Yeah. Ebbs and flows. And, yeah, sometimes looking back is not such a bad thing when you kind of make that comparison to where you are now versus where you were. My therapist always has to remind me of, kind of the way that I talked and the things that I was, focused on versus, kind of where I'm at now and how much it's different, even though to me, I mean, it just kind of seems like the days kind of wash over you. Um, but, some journal entries or some conversations or some things that you can look back on and decisions that you've made and how they've worked out for the better compared to what could have been. It's yeah, pretty eye opening just to allow yourself to sit and think and um, not everything like you have to kind of approach it from a good mindset though because sometimes you might think like you made the wrong decision when you had a choice um, or something. But even if you get to be around there, um, yeah, just think about the future. Like maybe if you did make a mistake or made the wrong choice, maybe it wasn't exactly a mistake, but start to think about how if you would have done things differently or done something differently, then you might be in a better spot. But going back to the past is only as good as thinking about it and trying to set yourself up more for the future. Since um, it was in the past, there's not much you can do about it now.
Yeah, I mean, man, I still am one of those type of people who dwell too much on the past. Like, things that have been said to me, or things that I've done. Things that I'm not going to be able to go back and change. But yeah, I mean, it's always the meme of still remember the girl when I was at an AMC theater, and she was clearly hitting on me, and I just like she's like, "What movie are you seeing?" I was like, "Oh, I'm seeing I don't even remember the movie, actually. She's like, "Oh, I love that movie." And then I was like, "Okay, cool." And then I just went and put my butter in my popcorn. My friends were like, "She was very clearly hitting on you." I go, "I know. I just froze." Right? Like I I'll still think about that, and like to me now it's just more funny than anything. And obviously I'm very happily married, but it was just one of those. If anything, I look back, it's a growth moment of like just recognizing that that actually was happening. That was just like how clueless I was, or how you know not even clueless, just like how unresponsive I was. Like I just kind of froze, and I was like, that never had happened to me up to that point. And it's like, again, it's just a growing period, jumping off point, whatever you want to call it. Of hey, that happened to me. If I see something like that, now I'm going to be able to react better. It's like first experiences for me are usually kind of a rough go. Like I'm usually, especially when it comes to like a video game. Sometimes like mechanics are slightly different, and like if you go from like Call of Duty to Battlefield or vice versa, right? Like there's common traits that you can have for both and still succeed, but there is going to be somewhat of a learning curve to both. Um, that's kind of where I fall in line. Like I'm kind of a slow starter, but then I eventually will get there. It's just trying to find my own path, so to speak. Um, and then you got your teammates, you got your friends. We'll call them, or your family, right? Like you got your sport, and you grow together, and uh, sometimes it's crying about it because you didn't get to the objective on time, and other times you're just laughing as you have a mortar on top of a golf cart, like I did the other day. Just absolute buffoonery. But one was uh, more of a learning experience. The other one was I've kind of reached my peak, and now I'm just kind of here to have fun, right? Like you're on both sides of the mountain on that in that case, the ascent and descent. So uh, life's kind of fun that way.
Yeah. Um, just enjoy the ride um, as much as you can. I
Yeah.
was never really a fan of roller coasters because they frighten me, but they can
Right.
also be kind of thrilling in some way um, if you can get around to that thought. But yeah, it's all the a lot of times feels like you're standing in line and the anticipation and whatnot, and then kind of the thrill of the experience until you're kind of back on that ride again. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about it quite a bit. I mean, there's always more to do, more to work on, and that's kind of the scary part, but also kind of the beauty of it. You never really, if you're looking for improvements, if you're looking for something to do, you can always find something, and hopefully, a lot of the times it's productive. But even if it isn't, then you can learn from it, and you relish the opportunity. Well, is relish the right word? Maybe seize the opportunity at
How about
some.
mustard?
Yeah. Not too big a fan of mustard, but
All
we can
right.
use it.
Ketchup
Um,
then.
yeah. Uh, but yeah, just sometimes like that gratitude to even have the opportunity. You have the opportunity to fail where others hadn't had that opportunity, or a lot of times opportunity for success, whereas others might not always have that opportunity. And whatever you have that's available to you, maybe if you don't have the opportunities that maybe some other people might have had, you still have something, and you gotta um, work within yourself to find those things and attack it with enthusiasm.
Yeah, for sure. I've had many opportunities to succeed in um, the software world, and I've failed a lot too. It's just funny because I've really only been in the game for almost going on 4 years now. I was thinking the other day of just I would always throw like shade towards like the companies I'd fail at, and like it was always 100% on them. They're on them, but I take responsibility and um, for my part in it or lack thereof, I should say, and uh, but I've spun it. It's a learning experience, and um, unfortunately, going through that made me realize like broader things too, like I very clearly had a drinking problem, and I was spun from um, just overworking myself, trying to keep all the parts flowing of my life. Trying to be the fun guy, the mushroom, if you will, at, at all points, is keep up the appearance that I was happy. But underneath it all, it was miserable. I felt like a failure, and trying to hide the appearance of being successful, posting on social media like LinkedIn, like look at my code that everyone else has written that I just very clearly stole from a YouTube video. But I've learned to fail, and now I know what failure is like. To quote Dusty Rhodes, I've eaten with kings and queens, but I've also eat pork and beans, right? So like I've again kind of using mountain as an analogy. I've ascended and descended, and both good and bad ways. Like I I'm thankful for all of the opportunities that I've had, and may come in the future. But I'm just learning to be okay with where I'm at. I don't have to just be constantly on the move, constantly learning new things, especially like you know coming out of boot camp where I thought I had to know like every technology language, every little facet, like every detail, over prepping for interviews, and, applying for 175 jobs or however many I did, falling for LinkedIn and Indeed and ZipRecruiter and all those. Um, Again, but that was just like my inexperience and my I don't want to say lack of maturity, but just lack of knowledge of thinking that I had to know all these things of when really I just needed to know a couple of things very well. With this job that I'm in currently, there's a lot of research. Like we're still a small company, so I have to wear a lot of hats. But in that, it's like I can grow and become this tremendous asset to a company, and that does afford me a lot of benefits, right? So I've kind of went from being somebody or who felt helpless and really probably truly didn't know what they were doing into you know uh, you know butter or, I'm sorry, a caterpillar went in their cocoon, and now I'm this beautiful butterfly. But I still have a lot of room to fly and grow. So for I think now is the first time in a long time that I feel like I'm optimistic about where I'm going, especially in software. So, it's like I've got people asking me questions of, "Hey, can you take a look at this?" I was like, "I have no idea what it is, but I'll do my best to get an answer for you," and kind of just leave it at that. So, I'm just being comfortable with myself is kind of a long-winded answer.
Nice. Um, yeah. Try to exist outside of your comfort zone, but also being comfortable with where you're at and understanding, like, hey, this is outside of my comfort zone, or, this would be good to know, good to learn. Um, I feel like that quite a bit, like very small comfort zone.
Right.
And, yeah, trying to get out of it as much as possible. And, when is a good time to, when is it good to push or pull back or some of those things. So, yeah, I mean, it really just, yeah, getting more attuned with yourself and understanding. I think it comes with age. and you're not as out trying to prove something to other people, but trying to prove some things to yourself. Um, that's really where the change and I think where the growth happens.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, when I think I was 19 or 20 when somebody said this to me. She's like, I wish this girl who worked at that Target. She said, I didn't really know myself until I was in my 30s, and kind of wish I just went from that mindset when I like graduated high school. Um, and like I didn't really understand that until, you know, within the last few years. And it's, you know, I don't want to say my life began in my 30s, because it just, sounds like I was just lived this boring existence. But, I was just kind of floundering around. I met my wife when I was 25, and we were married by the time I was 29, I think. Um, and even still, we've been married, it'll be 7 years in September, and like we're still learning things about each other. And we're both in therapy separately. We've both been to marriage counseling. Like, I I think that those things both felt like stigmas. I think that's right. That's not the die shit, right? That's stigmatism. Okay, yeah, yeah. We both thought it was like going to specifically like couples therapy. We thought it was like a stigma, but it's just hearing each other in a different light, where you're not just like screaming at each other and having to close doors, close windows. It's just maybe having that almost like a parental guardian there, who's there to kind of be like a referee. And then it's like, yeah, and then even after that, it still has taken work to kind of get to the point where we're at now. And trust me, like I'm sure there's days where I want to kill my wife, and I'm sure they're not literally. I'm not law enforcement. That was a joke. And I'm sure there's times where she's wanted to kill me. Still, even you know talking about it, but it's kind of just like letting the little things that don't actually matter go. Um, that's taken me a long time. Like that's the thing that's I'm still working on. It's just like, is this thing really like? Do I really need to say something like about like leaving her socks like all over the place? Like, does that probably really matter? No. Do I need to say something? Maybe, I don't know. But finding your way in your own life is the hardest part of your own story. Like you're the main character in the story, but what is your story?
Yeah. Um, yeah. Did I make the right choice? Did I make the wrong choice? Am I on the right path? Am I not on the right path? Is this working? Is it not working? Um, yeah. Uh, Try not to get too serious about it. Try to take a step back and look at things how they are. And it's difficult, like you had mentioned. It's the most difficult thing that we can do. But a lot of times in life, the harder path is typically worth it more than the easier one. Those hard conversations are worth a lot more than the easy ones. Um, and some of the tough realizations and um, things, yeah, they are worth a lot more than some of the easy realizations. So, um, but yeah, you just got to keep on the path and be patient and find what works best for you. What do you want? And what opportunities exist to you that you might want to try. And you start out small and build from there, but just have a good sense of self and where you're at, and where you want to go, and just proceed from there.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Finding your jumping off point is one thing. You know, figuring out where you need to go is obviously is going to be the hardest part. But I think equally as important is finding your jumping off point. Um, it kind of just comes down to maybe basics problem solving, and I'm still learning that of where do I need to start, like zooming out and looking at the whole picture. It's like, um yeah, I mean, cutting out drinking was obviously a huge success in my life, but what I really didn't do in hindsight was figure out what caused me to do that, right? Like, at the time I decided to quit, I was unemployed and I couldn't afford to see a therapist, like even if it was like, the my current one who is offering like, steep cash discounts. But it's taken me till now to kind of just like figure out what that underlying thing that caused me to do that. Um, so it's like, I think I figured out the end goal first, which was quit drinking. But, the first part of maybe have been, why am I doing this? Why am I using this as a crutch? And, or maybe what I did was right. I don't really know, but, um, find, uh, find the steps that work for you, and, just slowly pick away at it. We talk about that all the time on this podcast. And, um, again, different problem for different, or for different people. Almost said different anybody for different people. And I know I've kind of rambled on this episode. And David, I don't even know, have you talked about your house? I mean, that was, or the house that you want to look at. I mean, that was probably worth mentioning as maybe potential problem, I guess, if you wanted to talk about that. I think I've just kind of sucked up the entire episode.
No, it's fine. Yeah, I'll touch on it a little bit here in closing, but um, yeah, I mean, I started as a joke saying that I was gonna, live with my mom but buy a lake house for vacationing. But I had the opportunity to go and check out one that might have been affordable for me, kind of like right on the cusp of what would be comfortable in terms of the money I'd be spending on it. But yeah, I took the day off last Thursday, drove up, took a look at it, and yeah, it just kind of came back to reality. It was a kind of a dream of mine, and it still is. But kind of came back to the reality of this house is built in 1970. It's close to the lake. The foundation's messed up. The roof's wavy. Um, so it was selling for 260,000, but it probably ended up being at least $500,000 all in to kind of get it redone. Otherwise, it would have been uh, you know 5-10 years, some issues that came up. And same thing too with the realization of any of the housework or things that I could do. I would have to drive 3 hours up there to do them. And if anything else happened, I didn't really have the financial flexibility that I have today, which would not be great. But I think sometimes too, the dream kind of gets in the way of the reality of the situation. And I think that was just kind of one of those parts of it. So we're still looking, but I think I like where I'm at now, and I just don't want to be a victim to thinking I need something and not really taking in all the considerations of the different variables of how much this is going to cost. What happens if something happens and I have to spend a lot more money on something else, or if something happens to the house and I have to spend a lot of money on that. So yeah, I mean, it's really yeah, just trying to look at things from different views, and maybe sometimes like what we expected isn't exactly what we get. And it was sort of the case with that. But yeah, kind of ties back to what you're saying, like trying to find some way to vacation, not going too far. Like I had a good time going up, kind of checking out the city and checking out the locals around the town, and kind of getting their view on what it's like to live up there and what to look out for, and getting a house and all that. So yeah, it was a good experience overall, and I'm not too sad about not putting in an offer for the house. So, um, yeah, I mean, that's a good experience overall. And I'm glad I kind of took the time and um, did something, maybe outside of my comfort zone of, just driving 3 hours up by myself just to look at a house and didn't have any other real plans in mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, kind of like your baseline, starting point of, if you're in the market for a house, you did put in the effort and you 3 hour or 6 hour round trip and didn't work out. But, again, that's an experience to, kind of gauge of, maybe what you're looking for in a house. And, you can kind of speak of like, I want to, I you know, when you're house hunting, you're like, I want a mansion, but then when you like thinking like your budget, you're like, I can afford, a closet right now, but uh, not necessarily like your case, obviously, but you found what something that you may have liked, but obviously there were things that were wrong with the house, and you fought, um, maybe impulse, I guess, of just thinking you needed that house when you really didn't, and maybe you find something closer, maybe you find something that's 2 hours away, like whatever the case is. It's like you have your starting point. So I think it's you have enough of your starting data, right? Like I know you've been tracking your how long things take you, but I think it's also a case of you know looking at a house of all the work that would have to be put into it, and it's and with interest rates the way they are, it may not have even been affordable to begin with, especially with how much you have to put on your down payment and inspections and all that. So, um, and then these are obviously all things that you may not have thought about. I know that you have, but for some folks out there, there's a lot of maybe hidden things sometimes that you don't necessarily know about, right? That it's probably going to get fleshed out. Um, but again, that's all a part of our journey, and sometimes we have to take a 6 hour round trip to figure out that we didn't really want it or need it to begin with. But again, different case for everybody, and scope of things may be different, but um overall it's just about finding ourselves and finding out who we are and what we really need, and maybe what we you know what we can tolerate, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I spent more time and money on a lot worse things. So it's definitely not it's not that much of a waste in my opinion. Um, yeah, just the experience overall, and you know, checking myself. It's like there's things I didn't think about or didn't really put value towards. Just kind of put the blinders on and go out and check some things out. But yeah, um, grateful to have the opportunity to have that experience, and um, it wasn't a bad one, right?
Right.
Um,
Yeah,
so,
for like you said, could have been worse about just about any other situation, but
yeah, I think that's yeah. I mean, to think about the opportunity to even be able to buy something or have a car to be able to drive up that way, and the money for the gas, and to even have that amount of time to check out something like that. So um, yeah, it's definitely a good experience. And
yeah, I don't know if you because not that I'm bad. I don't know if you heard. Did you hear that they're closing Cadillac Street at the brewery in Madison Heights?
no, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I just actually saw that on the news the other day. But it's one of the first things I ever said to David. I complimented him on his Cadillac Streets T-shirt wearing boot camp. It was on our final project, and I just have a knack for weird conversation starters with people, but I worked, I guess. We're doing a podcast, 3 years after boot camp. So, but You know, who knows? Maybe, you compliment somebody on your t-shirt and, or, say that you want to go to a movie, and maybe that person starts a podcast with you, and maybe they just ignore you and go to their movie. There's different different lessons to be learned.
Yeah, yeah. The opportunity took it, and look where we're at now. We get thousands of people listening to us every week,
Yeah,
tuning
we're
in, wondering what we're up to.
we're rolling in sponsorships, not from Cadillac Straits, that's for sure.
Yeah, that does suck though. I gotta text my buddy and see if he knows. But all right, that's it for me. I don't know if you have anything.
No, I kind of rambled on, and I think I got everything out.
Nice. All right. Well, you made it this far. Thanks for listening. And we will be back next week.
All right, bye, everybody.